Giacomo's. Sal, he's the man. Giacomo's Italian Market. We had him on the podcast. We're doing a pop-up together. I don't know if I've met anyone who as real as Sal. He hugs me every time I see him. I love Sal. And you know what else I love about him? His food. His food is fantastic. It's an Italian market right over there on College Hill. He's got sausages. He's got his own soda now. There's pasta, there's the rice balls. There is so much stuff over there that is just unique and special. And then you got the menu. The breakfast sandwich I was lucky enough to have, that's killer. The sausage sandwich is killer. The sausage itself is killer. The cheesesteak is killer. Giacomo's is such a unique thing to this area, and I'm so happy it's like 10 minutes from the studio. But Giacomo's, man, they are on... 700 Cattell Street in Easton, College Hill, and you can go to giacomositalianmarket.com. I cannot wait to do more things with him. I'm selling his sausage sandwich called the G-Spot. We're doing that on our pop-ups. So that is Giacomo's Italian Market. Please go check them out. Love them to death. They are a new sponsor, and thank you so much for sponsoring the show. Mindleaf CBD. I'm a lot calmer with this read. You know why? Because I'm using these products from Mindleaf. Liz came on the show multiple times. Awesome story on how she got into this. They are making all their products. We got the barbecue pretzels. The pretzels are fire. The tinctures, those are my big thing that I use. I go to sleep with those. The tinctures knock this groundhog out every time I go to bed. The CBD gummies are great, and the Delta 8s. The Delta 8s are fantastic. They'll put you on the moon. I enjoy that. Seriously though, this is a fantastic CBD product. I stand behind it. I got to use all of their stuff, and it is 100% the go-to thing I use now for joint pain, for going to sleep. The snacks are awesome as well. It's just an added bonus. I'll go over to the store and pick those up. Liz is one of a kind. You can follow their social media, Mindleaf CBD, and then it's mindleafcbd.com that you can order all their stuff online. So if you're not local to the area, if you are local, I suggest you go over to the shop. They have a really cool shop over on College Hill. It's actually close to Giacomo's, which is another sponsor. But that's Mindleaf CBD. Get your tinctures, get your Delta 8s, get your gummies, get all of your CBD needs from Mindleaf. We're doing pop-ups and things together as well. So follow their social media. We are connecting them into the network. So go support them because they support me. Appreciate it, guys. Thank you. fiveanddimeeaston.com. They have their website officially up. You can shop most of their stuff online. They also have Fucked. They have Fucked in the store. I think they're the only one allowed to sell Fucked out of their store. It's 484-544-4719. That's at Five and Dime Easton on social media. These guys are great. I mean, they're killing it. It's the best skate shop, in my opinion, in the area. They have a lot of cool stuff there. Both the owners are rad. I stop in when I can. They're open Monday through Friday, 11 to 7, Saturday, 10 to 7, and Sunday, 11 to 5. There is someone always there to help you out with your needs. You can check their inventory off the website. You can check out some videos they got on there, and they're doing some cool things. Their social media is awesome. They support a lot of local skaters in the area, and they're growing. I'm excited to be a part of them growing. I'm excited to help them out. They're helping me out. It's a good relationship, and I push Five and Dime Easton because they're the best skate shop in the area. Check them out. I'm going to set a timer. Never Again Radio. I have no clue what episode we're on. Welcome to Never Again Radio, gentlemen.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, no problem. I always like to just jump into it. There's three of you, so with three people on here, it doesn't get complicated, but it's a little bit much in the beginning. So I'm going to give you guys a chance, and we're going to go just around the room and kind of introduce yourself and what you do, and then we're going to circle back and dissect all of you guys.
Sounds good. Well, I'm Dave Harrison. I own Zulu 24 Airsoft Park in New Windsor, New York. It's basically a place to go out, have fun, shoot your friends all day.
I'm Anthony Aprilli, or Tony Nubbs.
Tony Nubbs. It's like the Godfather.
I own Antec Airsoft Studios, LLC, and I pretty much do on-site tech work for airsofters that come to Zulu on the weekend, keep them on the field, and then people also have me build them custom special projects, and I'm manufacturing and designing my own products now, too, for airsoft on the side. Yeah.
And I'm Jordan Esposito. I'm one of the owners of Zulu Outdoor, the pro shop located at Zulu 24 in New Windsor, New York. We kind of just deal with providing the players the best possible equipment they can when they're on the field.
I talked to you originally, I believe.
Yes.
And then I was introduced to you guys through Ted Park shared some stuff. And I knew Ted, I had him on here and he talked about doing airsoft. And I've always seen airsoft and like, you know, the commercial version of it. And then I just knew it was similar to paintball. So then I was like, I said to Ted, I was like, yo, I said, I think I'm going to reach out to those guys and get them on. And he's like, I don't know. He's like, they're pretty far away. He's like, you know, see what they'll say. And then I was like, or I think I might have reached out already. And then when you guys reached out and we got on the phone, I was like, awesome, I can dig into this. What is airsoft exactly before you guys get into like how it started?
Well, so that's the $1 million question. We all laugh because we all have the same answer and you already said it.
Yeah.
We always start the same way. Airsoft is like paintball. It's just a little different,
Yeah.
right? And the differences are more in the shape of the guns. You know, all the guns tend to look a little bit more realistic. We shoot a 6mm biodegradable pellet, and we do war games, man. I mean, that's really it. Obviously, there's like the small, medium, and high level of that sport, just like with anything, and it can get pretty nuts.
Does it hurt? How do you know when you're hit?
Well, you might as well answer the questions.
That's so does it hurt? Man, that's relative. Some people can take the pain, I guess.
God.
Well, it depends where you get hit, man.
Well, there's so many things there too because the guns have different velocities. So like paintball, you're limited to about 280 to 300 feet per second. Yeah. With airsoft, you're going anywhere between 200 to 500. Our field chrono limit is 500 feet per second with a .25 gram BB. So depending on what you're getting shot with, it's going to vary in pain level. You get hit with a 250 feet per second gun and a 500. That's two different animals.
And there's different types of pain. Like paintball's a punch. Airsoft is more akin to like paper hornets.
Yeah.
Like just getting flicked. You know what I mean? It's like a sting.
You guys are nuts. You get hit when you get hit in the bacon. Oh, man. You see Jesus right quick.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did paintball when I was younger. When I was in high school, we had a teacher. I was shipped off to Catholic school. I was in public, shipped off Catholic, and at Catholic school, it's like the teachers weren't. Sometimes they were there just to kind of get some credits before public school hired them. So they had a gym teacher teaching theology. So like at the end of the year, he was like, "Hey, I'm in charge of figuring out what our class does for our project." But he was cool. So like he was very straightforward with like his level of what he can teach us, and it was more of like kind of a hangout for the year. So at the end of it, he's like, "What would you guys want to do?" And it was mostly guys. There was a couple girls, but it was mostly guys. And everyone was throwing around ideas, and they were like, "Let's go play paintball." And everyone was like, "Yeah." And then I think the girls wanted to go do something else, or they were allowed to be excused into another class that was going to like, you know, go whale watching. So but this was like the coolest thing that I've ever done in high school, where a teacher took us to go play paintball. It was very not a thing that you would do. And it was my first time playing, and I grew up in the 80s, so it was like you had the realistic guns. There wasn't the orange cap on the end. You know, the A-team gun. Like I had 3 brothers, so we always had like war stuff, and my dad would just go in the woods. So we always played in the woods, and then when you did it with paintball, I was like, oh, this is awesome. Like I was like going through water the first hour and like, you know, hiding out. And then I understood why you would go do that. And it was a blast. And I got hit in the neck. And then that was when I was like, oh, yeah, this fucking hurts. And what you were saying, I'm sure it depends on where you get hit. But that was my first taste of it. And we went later on. I was a part of a social club down the road where we would go to like we'd just get drunk and go to races and stuff. So the one time a group of us went and played paintball, and it was awesome. I loved doing that stuff. And then when I saw airsoft come on the scene, I was like, oh man, I bet you that's the same vibe of being in the woods and getting into the feeling of just, you know, you get lost because you're like focused on like if you're not into doing that, you're obviously not into playing that type of stuff. But if you're into that, like you can get completely enwrapped and like disappear, and hours can go by, and it's like you're a kid again.
Oh yeah. And I mean there are events that we've all gone to at this point that are like over 40 hours long.
Yeah, those are the ones that Ted was
Right.
starting. And then when Ted was telling me about the stuff on the podcast, I'm like, yo, you're sleeping out over there.
We were with Ted at that last Milsom West. So
Yeah.
me and him were like doing nature hikes, I guess, so
Yeah.
to speak. We're looking for NATO, and he had this blank fire M4, like a 10-inch barrel on it. It's badass.
He's crazy.
He let me shoot it at the end of the game. It was fun.
With like his studio and everything he does. Like, I love that he's so over the top with everything, and like he's like, he came down, he's got his book bag and all this stuff, and I mean, if you get into something like that, you can have a blast doing it. Then when I saw there was like 3-4 day events, I was like, this is nuts.
Yeah, I mean, you're sleeping with your eye protection on because you can be attacked at any given
Yeah.
point. And we've done
It's so
that.
much fun.
We've done it before where
Yeah.
you're shooting people in sleeping bags.
Yeah.
And you don't feel bad about it, not even one little
Yeah.
bit. Because they're going to do it to you in 2 hours,
Yeah. How did you get into airsoft to a point where you wanted to open a business with it?
So here we go.
Oh yeah.
Right down memory lane here. No, so I was a paintball guy through and through. Growing up since I was 15 years old, I used to go to West Point twice a year. They had like a big day-long paintball game up there. Then I was working at a paintball shop my senior year. Shout out to Santos Lopez. He's everywhere.
That's a good shirt.
That guy is everywhere. It's called Hudson Valley Paintball, and we had a couple airsoft guns on the back of the wall, right? Very early gen stuff, and they were cool. And I bought a couple, went home, played with my cousin, and all the guns broke and everything fell apart.
Yeah.
And I was like, you know what? This is awesome, but let's just set this to the side a little bit.
That was the taboo of it back in the day too, is it was expensive for the hobbies that you would do back in the day.
And so fast forward a little bit, 9/11 happens. I'm a single, able-bodied male, so it's time for me to step up and do my thing. But then I kind of, wussed out a little bit, so I didn't join until later, until 2003. Caught the invasion of Iraq. And but then when I got out, I was doing construction, still playing paintball, and I was literally looking for an upgrade for my paintball gun. And I stumbled onto this video. It's called, I'll never forget it, it's called Night Ambush in Utah. And it's a bunch of airsoft guys. They're rolling up in Humvees at night with night vision.
That's so crazy.
They're getting out and like using this little ravine to set up a firing position on this one lonely building at the top of a hill.
What year was that uploaded?
Oh, I don't know.
I think last time we looked, it was like 2008.
Dude, 2008 airsoft guns fucking suck.
No. But
today's standards.
this video, like, they all get out, get online, they get in behind cover. So now they're the base of fire. So they're gonna like shoot at the building while the other part of their team is maneuvering up. So now I'm like, oh my god, they've got Humvees, they've got night vision, they're using real world tactics, and then they all shot. Every single one of them had tracer units, so all the BBs glowed, under the night vision, so you can see.
Oh, that probably looked crazy in the video.
Oh my god, I was like, what is this? What is this? So then I literally sold all my paintball stuff the next day, got my airsoft stuff, and started playing.
Where were you getting the airsoft stuff from? Was it accessible in stores, or like, do you have to buy most of it online at the time? Or
I think everybody makes the same mistake, and we always, kind of go to the first place in your mind that you think you saw one. And for me, it was a paintball store in Poughkeepsie.
Yeah.
And they just happened to have some airsoft stuff there. And so I just immediately ran there. I was like, I need all of that. And
was it cheaper than the paintball equipment, or about the same?
It's about the same.
Yeah.
Airsoft's cheaper to play in the long run, but the initial cost is still pretty hefty.
Yeah.
So yeah, I sold my stuff immediately and played, and I was like, this is the bee's knees.
So back then, did they have it set up at paintball places, or was it harder to find games? Was it harder to find more people? Because I feel like, and I'm not in the world, but I feel like airsoft kind of took over where paintball used to be, or is it kind of the same leveled out?
So I always say that airsoft right now is where paintball was in like 85.
Yeah.
Right? Like, it's still in that epic growth. When I started playing, I literally found a field, which oddly enough is exactly where we're at right now. And they had just opened that day, and I went and played on their very first day, on my very first day, and it was myself, the owner, and one other guy. It was literally their first
That's
day.
what I was going to say, is everybody, I remember when you would go play paintball, it'd be busloads of people.
Oh, yeah.
So, I figured the early starts of airsoft, it was probably not busloads of people. It was probably, a lot of people had to be talked into changing over.
Yeah, and paintball was so established.
Yeah.
That it was hard to kind of break that mold. And also, everybody remembers what I remembered in 2000, or when I was a senior in 2001, sorry, that the airsoft guns kind of broke and fell apart in your hands, and you spent all this money for something that looks cool, but then it breaks. So that mentality we had to get over that. You had to get over that hump, and the technology in airsoft by that point. I mean, I remember thinking to myself when I saw that video, I was like, if they can make BBs glow in the dark, like, I'm sure the guns are pretty freaking good.
Yeah.
So, but it was been a wild ride ever since, though.
When did you take the first steps to being like, because I'm sure you were playing nonstop and being like, okay, this is either something that I'm going to do just because this is what I want to wake up and do every day, or, hey, there's a lucrative angle on this to where I can make a living off of it, or, a little bit of both? Like, when did you did the light turn on where you were like, hey, I think I'm going to turn this into a business? Was it out of the fact that you wanted to create something that no one else was doing? What kind of pulled you in the direction? Because you don't just open an airsoft business.
So I actually, so when I got out of the Marine Corps, a buddy of mine got out like a year later, and I told him, hey man, you got to try this airsoft stuff. It's a lot of cool. It's a lot of fun, right? And so we played a couple times. He bought some stuff, played a couple times, and then we sat down and were like, hey man, like, there's training value in this, for real training value. And so we went down the rabbit hole of trying to introduce airsoft into the training realm, and that's tough to do. And this was 10 years ago, so it's tough to do. It's still tough to do now, but now it's starting to break into the training atmosphere. But back then it was like hard stop. It was tough to do. So that was my first foray into trying to make airsoft into a business. But by doing that, I had worked out a deal with the original owners of Zulu 24 that I could utilize their property for training.
And those were the guys that you played the first game with?
No. So this is Mario and Phil. They were the original owners of Zulu, and we had approached them, myself and my buddy from the Marine Corps. We approached them and said, hey, we want to start this training company that utilizes airsoft. Therefore, your insurance doesn't need to change, because ostensibly we're just playing airsoft in the backyard, or in their yard, you know what I mean? And so once it kind of dawned on us that, the training realm isn't ready for airsoft right now, they still see it as a child's toy and all this stuff. I had spent a lot of money. I invested into the field to make a training area, right? So when the training company didn't really work out, I approached Mario and I was like, hey man, like, I got some money already laying out here on this field. What are the chances I can become a part of it? And they welcomed me in with open arms, because I was kind of like fresh blood, and I just ran with it. And and then over the years, people started having grandkids and stuff like that, and backed out. So now I'm the guy.
Yeah, I was going to ask if they were still a part of it.
Super good friends still.
Yeah.
But no, Mario's kids had kids, right?
Yeah.
So he's a grandfather now, and he just wanted to spend more time with his grandkids, because it takes up your weekends.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's tough.
Yeah, it's like restaurant. Like when we were doing the pop-ups, and even when I was talking to you about coming out, and you were like, this is the best day to come out. And I'm like, huh. But my weekends are going to be free in a couple weeks. And you were talking about rescheduling that. And I was just like, yeah, but when you got something that eats up your nights, weekends, holidays, all that stuff, where you got to capitalize when other people have off, it really starts making it difficult to want to do something very long term.
It's a commitment, and it's kind of funny you were talking about your podcast. You find out who's got the drive and who's got the commitment to hang around, because again, you got to show up. There's no the only person you can trust to get stuff done is you. Yeah. So you just got to get out there and do it.
Yeah, it's sometimes better to have a team, but then to the core, you can't rely on anybody to really do anything, and then you kind of got to get stuff done yourself. And then when Jesse, who's I started the show with and will always be a part of the show, he can't make it to everything because he's got kids. Yeah. He's got 2 kids. He had a baby when we moved in here, so like that's still early years of like and he's down the street and can't make it here. Plus he's got a job. Yeah. Then he owns 2 homes. Like, I'm very realistic on like what people can put in, but I still hold myself to. It's hard for me to even ask for help anymore because I've come so far by myself. Where it's like you start relying, but you have to show up every day. And if you do that for a long time and you don't get anything out of it, it's very difficult to keep wanting to do something.
Yeah,
it's hard.
Yeah.
Like it's very hard. I've been doing this I started when I was 28. I'm 42. I'm just seeing an opportunity of actual opportunity. Like that's how long it took. And when people are like, it takes 10 years to establish things, and yeah. And then I look back on the time and I'm like, yeah, that's about right. That's about right. Some things go faster than others, but to put the real work in and to build the business and establish it, I mean, I'm sure that was very difficult for you.
Oh man, it was it's 12 years. I've been a part of it for 12 years. And it is, because you're constantly weighing, I mean, just like with any business, right? You're constantly weighing the financial side with what your heart wants to do. And I've been fortunate enough that what my heart wants to do is also beneficial financially for the business, right? Because I'm a player. I play airsoft. I also own Zulu, but man, I'm a player at heart, and I'm not going to say I know exactly what players want, but I have a real good idea.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Idea, so.
It's a good hand up to have that. I mean, I apply that into, before I started this, I was obsessed with Opie and Anthony. I grew up on when they were on 94.1, and one of my best friends got me into it, and we would always laugh and text each other, and then you realize there's an audience for people that want to sit around and listen to people talk. And then it's like, I just became obsessed with it. And then when podcasting came out, that was the first time where I was like, man, like I can do something that I really enjoy doing. But, it was years and years and years of just developing and figuring it out to even turn something into what you would want to do.
Yeah.
It's tough.
Yeah.
When did you start getting help?
Like as far as staff?
Yeah. Like I'm going to slowly get into these guys being a part of it.
So we always had staff from day one, but it was always like Mario's son, the other owner, Phil's son, they were just kind of like helping out and everything. Probably like 4 years in, we hired 2 guys. They did great, and then we were growing like 30% every year, and we have done so for 12 years. So we started to see more players. More players means you need more staff, and it just grows from there. Then in 2014, we started to look around, and we're like, hey Mario, we got 120 people here today for our hobby.
That's crazy.
For our hobby business.
Yeah.
And that's on Saturday. Mario, it's Sunday. There's another 120 people here. Hey man, maybe we should start thinking about this. It's as less a hobby, and like, let's buy the property. And so we talked to we talked to our former landlord, and we're like, hey man, like our little hobby thing is like pretty viable now. Can we buy the property? And he was like, yep, for $4 million. We're like, you're crazy. So as soon as he said that, I immediately started looking around for other places, and
it's funny because that's always happened with us with the studios, where somebody will like pivot you and be like, well, I know this is gonna work, so if you don't want money, I'll definitely go over here and do something somewhere else because the product and what you're working. Before we get into the actual purchase of it, what were you doing that brought 120 people there every Saturday? What were you doing, like different layouts, or was it the games you were doing? Were you the only one in the area? What was...
I don't know. Well, no, I can tell you why. So while we were there at that property, there was another airsoft field 5 miles down the road. Another airsoft field that was open for 5 years before we were. But they never I don't know, they never grasped it. They never took it by the balls and fucking ran with it, you know what I mean? But I think the thing that set us apart was we were professional.
Yeah.
We weren't a backyard. Like we actually had insurance. We had uniformed staff. We had rules that were set down and constantly added to, because you always got to add stuff for the dumb people. But
always.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
Like so we had strict time hacks and everything like that. Like, hey, this is registration, safety briefs at this time, first games at this time.
Took a lot of bullshit out of it.
Yes. And so it just felt more professional overall, and I think that's what players could sense was the difference, right? We also, like in our game modes or whatever, like we always tried to like have an objective. So it wasn't just go out and shoot your buddy. It was go find the pilot. He's got a note on him. That note's going to take you to another place. Find the gas can.
That's fun.
Like whatever, you know. So it was never just about shooting your buddy. It was about working together as a team, promoting teamwork, and getting a job done, really.
Which is where that training aspect would be brought in.
Right?
But also from like a player's perspective, because at this time, 2014, 2015, I didn't work for you yet.
That's
I
right.
just played at the field.
That's right.
I would rather go to Zulu at that time than other fields because the buildings were nicer. The field was better laid out. The actual game modes were better. The staff was present and you could see them. We all, at the time, the staff had yellow shirts.
Yep.
Then we switched to blue. But for the player perspective, at the time, Zulu was just a better product.
Well, I appreciate that, Jordan. Thank you.
I mean, I was probably around this time. I was probably around 12 or 13, like just old enough to play. And I only heard of Zulu 24 from friends, who's like their dad was a cop or something, and they played airsoft, and they're like Zulu 24, and I heard about it and went there, and it was just good. It was good. It was always good. It was never a bad time. So.
Well, when you said like how we were saying when we were talking earlier, and I was like, when I first started this, I wanted to overproduce it, but like when you start overproducing it and you start holding yourself to a standard, even if you're not there yet, and you're doing things like it was just naturally then things would become like at the early days. Not so much, but like over time you start like learning how to handle a guest when they come in, and you're not awkward about it because you've had so many people come in. But like when you set that standard of like, hey, we're going through a mic check, video check, even if I barely know what we're doing, it's still the format of like this is professional. And then if you hold yourself to a professional level, you have the hopes of you're eventually going to hit professional. And then when you hit that professional mark, then you can, all right, cool. Now we're pro now. I still want us to be here, but we're halfway. And then, people start taking you more seriously.
It's like, do they have standards because they're professional now, or are they professional because they went into it with standards?
Yeah. Like when everybody comes down here, they're always like, well, one, it's the way I have it set up where, well, especially now the way the lobby looks. And then you come down here, it's like, it's like a hidden thing, but like I always wanted this to be its own vibe, and when people come down here it immediately changes the mood of everything, and they're like, oh, this is cool, and this is, I hear stuff like, oh, I want to get a studio, and like it's created down here. One, this is everything that I love, but like two, it's like I want people to feel what I'm trying to do. Now, if this was just a room with white walls and I had nothing on it, this would be totally different, but we have already been interacting with each other before we sat down. So it's comfortable, there's lighting, there's mood, so you create an atmosphere for people. And then if it's professional on top of it, the word of mouth that you're better than somebody else, and you don't even have to tell anybody that. It's just, it starts going through the ether. Hey, I don't want to go here. They don't even have bathrooms. You know what I mean? Like we're going over to this place because it's at a different standard. If that's where you really want to play, and that's how I've always been doing this. Like, yeah, you can jump on somebody's podcast where they're doing it through Zoom, and they're just asking. And I'm not against it. I'm just saying.
Poverty tier podcast.
I'm just saying. And things might have been different if that was available to me when you start. But like how I did this is like I hold it to a level of come in studio. Like I'll make it worth your while coming down here for 2 hours, and I'm definitely going to be driving 2 hours to you guys just because you came down here. But when you start doing stuff like that, you start building relationships with people, you start networking, people start taking you more seriously when you take yourself more seriously. And I think when people start businesses early on, that's how they should handle it. You should always want to be better in a sense. And I'm sure the military background probably had your structure and things in there that you wanted to do.
Yeah, it turns out when you try hard, like good things happen.
Yeah.
I mean, it's really like
putting in work actually fucking happens.
Yeah, it doesn't just get sprinkled onto you, you know what I mean? Like it took us 12 years to get where we're at.
Yeah.
And I remember every day of all those 12 years. It was rough. I got a lot of gray going on because
I just started getting it in my goat. I did a podcast for these two ladies down here, and the one I know very well, and she was like, well, Michael's doing, and I hate when people like, I don't like talking about myself, and I don't like it's uncomfortable for me if a stranger's like, they just think that you just got all this. That's how I look at it. So the lady is like, man, how did this start? And I was like, well, it was a clothing company. Then I went into a podcast. Then I went into cooking. And now I'm opening a restaurant and building this. And she's like, man, it's so great that everything you do, you succeed at. And I'm like, no. I'm like, I failed at all of these things, which is why I had to try other things. And then now, because I failed at all of them, I know not what to do because I've done the wrong thing so many times in a row where you don't really have any options. If you don't give up, you basically run out of options. And it's, it's like you're in a dark room, one of the doors open, and if you keep looking for that door, no matter how long it takes, eventually it'll open. So I looked at the woman, and the other lady is like, you can't ever take a compliment, but I was like, I failed at everything I did, and I learned from that failure, and then I applied that to the next project, and then now I can take all of these things and combine them together, and they'll work as one. But that wasn't anything other than I lost at everything, and it's trial and error, and it's learning and building. And I'm sure the early days of what you were trying to do were hectic and crazy, and then you got people there, and you're worried about people getting hurt and everything else.
I still get agita, thinking about it, because I always wanted in the early days, right? There was no budget for building. It was like, oh, a tree fell down? Awesome, get the chainsaw because we can make something out of that. Or Mario owned another company and he'd have like pallets. Yeah. And we're like, cool, we'll use them for something. So in the early days, I was always trying to like push it further and further and further, with the buildings, whatever, but with the gameplay, and what we could do. I had all these crazy ideas about like digging a trench and pouring gasoline in it and making it look like a napalm run, like all this crazy stuff. And that's as a player, like kind of coming into it, but then as you like morph into the business side of it,
you're like, we should definitely not have fire.
Yeah. Like maybe we shouldn't have an ultralight shooting a machine gun down. Maybe that's not a good idea. But those sparked ideas, and so now we do have a helicopter that you can rent out. You can go up in the helicopter and you can shoot down during a live game, that's
crazy.
All good. But it started with those crazy, fantastical ideas. I'm going to do the napalm fire thing. I'm going to find a way. To do that safely.
But it's like, even talking to you now, it's 12 years in, and you're excited. You're like, yeah, I'm still fucking doing this.
It comes and goes. I'll be honest with you.
Oh, believe me.
It's there's an ebb and flow to that.
Yeah,
but
you gotta take your breaks.
Yeah. And we had a good year this year. Actually, I take that back. We did not have a good year this year. We had a lot of outside producers come in and maybe not do their best work, and that reflects on us. Yeah. And so now I'm gonna, like, next year, I'm gonna do away with the outside producers for the most part. And Zulu's going to produce their own events, and we're going to blow it out of the water. Yeah. We're going to hit it hard.
But see, that's what I'm saying is, like, that's applies to what I just said. It's like, you try different things, and you try working with people, and then if people aren't up to your standards, then it's kind of not working correctly. And then when it comes down to it, it's like, no, we'll just do it. Yeah. Let's just do it. Why are we not doing it? Yeah. And then you start realizing you can make more money doing that. You can save more money doing that. Your reputation, you can add things in and move them around. Yeah. So when did you actually purchase the property then?
So we didn't, right? The guy wanted
$4 million.
Yeah. And so we were like, all right, that ain't happening, right? So we immediately started looking for new places. Well, turns out that airsoft field that I went to originally, which was 5 miles down the road, they ended up closing or moving or whatever. So I immediately went there, called up the actual owners of the property. And I was like, hey man, I know this guy moved out. What do you say? And they were like, yeah, because they're not dumb. They want another tenant there. So we split the field. I think the lower half was paintball, and then the upper half was airsoft. And
how much property is it?
It's 78 acres, but honestly, like playing field wise, what was it, like 50?
We looked it up. It was about 62 acres of playable area.
I mean, the parking lot and everything like that takes up the rest. But that was, so when we first moved in, it was still paintball in the lower field. And even the owners of the properties would say, hey, on any given Saturday, you guys have 80 to 120 people, and then paintball's got 12.
You want to talk about airsoft consuming paintball? Oh. I was. So when we were still splitting the field with cousins, I was reffing at that point, and there was this like net that went in between our CQB city. Sorry,
you're right.
And like what paintball was doing, and we had smoke grenades, and we had frag grenades, and we had these LMGs, and everybody's having fun, right? And these buildings, and I would watch paintball kids in the middle of a paintball match just stop and just watch airsoft through the net. It was
Because figure at that time, everyone that was coming up to play there, they were renting. So it was your basic rental paintball gun and rental face mask. And then they're watching dudes in high-speed kit with night vision on run past them using an LMG. They're like, oh, I want to do that instead. And to be honest, my first time playing airsoft was because I played paintball at that exact field. And I was there for a birthday party playing paintball, and I was like, what is that? That looks so cool. And the ref's like, oh, that's airsoft. They just moved in next door. And this is like 2011, 2012, back when I first started playing. But it was the same deal with the field there prior. They were airsoft and paintball. You see that once, and you're like, all right, I want to do that instead. It looks cool. That's how you get into playing airsoft when you're always playing paintball.
Yeah.
So then that you know, the consumption had begun. You know what I mean? And that was kind of always the plan, to move to this field, establish a foothold, and then basically take over the rest of the property. And so that's what we did. We called up the owners. We're like, hey man, we know you're not making any money with paintball. Like, we're willing to.
So you guys, what do you had separate rents?
Oh yeah.
Oh, because you had more property than they did?
No, so actually we had less. They basically split the field in half and gave paintball the best parts, and then we just had to deal with what we had. And so we built.
You guys had the worst section and then made it.
It was like a big hill.
Yeah.
And, so we made it work. And then, it got to the point where, we're outgrossing them hand over fist. So they were worried about losing the income from the paintball side of the house. And I was like, brother, like, we're going to do fine here. So we took over the rest of the property, and then that's when we got access to the building where these guys come in.
So there was a building that they had, like, the pro shop and the rental and all that for paintball.
Yeah.
Before we go any further, why wasn't paintball doing any of the things that you guys were?
So, I mean, it's all about reinvestment, right? And I don't know why they weren't doing what we did. Because all we did is we took, like, 40% of any sort of revenue or profit, and we immediately turned it right back into the business.
Yeah.
Sometimes as high as 80%, and threw it right back in. And we were able to do, like, magical things with that. So there's no, like, secret sauce to what we were doing. We were just running a business. So I don't know why they didn't do that.
I think us as a player base too, airsofters tried really hard, and we still do for like the longest time. We've tried really hard to try to make airsoft more and more realistic. Whereas, like, I feel like with paintball, they try to stay away from trying to be too realistic.
Yeah, like the game never evolved.
Well, not even like they didn't, because they have paint grenades. They have those products. Like, there's people that do have that level of paintball, but I feel like most paintballers feel like, ugh,
It never caught on.
I don't want to act like I'm playing real Army or anything. And airsofters don't feel that way necessarily, but like, we definitely don't shy away from trying to make it realistic. Like the helicopter, if we can pay $50 and sign a waiver and shoot people out of a helicopter with an airsoft gun, it should absolutely happen. You have one life.
That's crazy. Who operates the helicopter?
So that's a company based out of Stewart International Airport. It's called Independent Helicopters. And I remember the first phone call I had with one of the pilots, because I had this idea. And I was like, you know what? You never know unless you ask, right? Then I'm thinking about all the FAA regulations and all this stuff. I was like, there's no way that this can be allowed. So I call the pilot up, and I tell him my idea, like, hey, I just want guys to shoot down from the hell. I want to do gun runs. That's it. And he was like, oh yeah, we can do that. And I was like,
it's the best conversation when, because I always try growing this, and I always have crazy ideas, and I'll be, with everything, like I said, like getting into cooking shows and doing all this stuff, and then when you like kind of run stuff by somebody, and then you think that your idea is too crazy, and if he says no, I'll stop looking into it. And then when it's greenlit, you're like, let's go. And then it gets even crazier.
I literally told the pilot, I was like, I have to hang up right now because I didn't have any follow-on questions, because I was like, this is a dead no here. And so I called him back like 30 minutes later and I was like, okay, how much, whatever. And it's literally $50 for the player to go up in a helicopter, and they can shoot down, and it works.
So does the pilot have to be there every weekend, or do you only offer it for certain games?
Yeah, so it's like twice a year.
Yeah.
So it's like twice a year, because they do a lot of stuff. They have their own flight school, and they do
trips
to New York City and all that stuff. So we're like kind of small fries for them, but
It's cool that they even give you the time of day to
I'm
do it,
telling
though.
you, right?
It's cool when you network and meet with somebody who's like, no, I can do this, and they make time for you, even though they could be doing other stuff.
So the pilot was so jazzed up because he was like, "That is the coolest thing."
Yeah,
I've
he's
ever heard.
probably bored of taking
Oh,
old people
man.
to New York City.
The first,
He's got crazy kids strapping in.
The first time he did gun runs, he was wearing a military flight suit.
Yeah.
and he had this like
Was that his idea to do all that? Yeah.
So he had a helmet with like an eagle and stuff.
Yes.
You know, like super American looking
Yeah,
shit.
yeah.
And meanwhile, they're flying like a Robinson R-22, so it's like this tiny go-kart of a helicopter painted all red. But he looks like he's getting out of an Apache.
Yeah. That's so cool.
Yeah, it was super cool, man. They do a great job.
So you guys took over the property at this point?
Yeah.
You kind of, the landowners were like, yeah, let's just move you guys down, and then you're going to end up making more money because you'll have full access to everything.
Yeah.
What was that like for you to finally walk to that paintball side and be like, holy shit, this is mine?
So I had been eyeballing that for a long time, and plotting and scheming and. You know, like what could I do with it? Because it was like the
It was be mine.
Yeah, it was like it was like the only flat area.
Yeah.
So it was like prime for like another town, and
at that point, for you to make a success out of the worst piece of property, you're probably like, you like how I was talking about when I moved the studio. Like, you already know what you need to do over there.
Oh, yeah.
And it's the best piece of real estate. That's how I am going up there. Like, I can put 3 studios in one spot, and like, like, oh, this will be here, and this will be here, and this is the utilization of that. And then it's cool because you made it work off of something that it shouldn't work off of.
yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I shouldn't have done what I did in this basement in this dumb town. Like, but I made it work. And if you make it work and you put the work in and you bust your ass and you show up every day and you give it 100%, you can do anything. You just got to do it.
That's the secret sauce, man.
Yeah.
So we eyeballed this the lower part. We built another town down there. I built a helicopter out of wood. Freaking amazing. Like,
Did you get to work right on the property? Like, as soon as like they were like, hey, it's yours on this date? And then
so
it was
I think it transitioned in the wintertime.
Yeah,
I think it was like February. Or
so you had to
something.
wait?
So we had to wait. But I called up the contractor because I use a contractor now to build everything. I called him up and I said, look, I draw up like. I use like the little graph paper.
Yep.
And I draw everything to scale so you can kind of see where he wants each building to be and what the layout is and everything. And I gave him that, and he had the lumber there like within a week.
That's cool. He's a contractor at this point.
Yeah. Well, he was an airsoft player as well. I used to be. You know? And so we had everything pretty much spec'd out and built. I think the first year that we had that lower field. No, it's not true because we built the embassy the second or
So we had the town up the first year.
Yeah.
And then we had the old helicopter that was left over from the paintball field.
Gross.
We used that for like a year until that came down. Mm-hmm. And then we built the helicopter right before the big vid.
Oh.
Yeah, because we had the helicopter done like February, March, and then COVID hit. And during COVID is when the embassy went up.
That's right.
Yeah.
So we never stopped. Even during the shutdown.
Yeah, we kept going.
Yeah.
I didn't have an option. I didn't get any money.
We had to close because of New York.
Yeah.
So we were closed for, what was it, 10 weeks? 12 weeks?
It was almost 3 months. Yeah.
So it was like 10, 12 weeks we were closed. But during that time, it's like, all right, guys, we're going to build this.
Yep.
We got to start scheming it. Like Dave was asking for ideas. There were a couple revisions of the embassy till you finalized what you were going to do. And then it was built, I think it was like June or July of 2020, the embassy went out.
Yeah.
If you paid attention to the time you had and didn't like if you took advantage to the whole world being stopped, you never are going to get an opportunity to do that again. Like, that's how I looked at it, where I was like, okay, I'm not getting bailed out on anything. I think I got like one check, and then that covered rent. And then I was like, cool. And then I had to call the sponsors and, hey, we're going to still keep doing a podcast. And then I started a totally different podcast because I wasn't bringing guests in. And then that podcast led to us getting on Tiger King season 2.
Hell yeah.
So like
Hell yeah.
we didn't stop working, and like I didn't miss a beat, but there was a lot of stuff that I learned how to do this. I changed the whole setup to where I was now here and started producing. Like, if you paid attention to that time and just didn't sit around watching Netflix and doing, I definitely did do my fair share of that, but it came to a point where I was like, bro, I am not going to be able to just keep getting drunk with my friends who are getting paychecks from unemployment. So I went back to work, and there was a lot you could get done in the time before life went back to whatever it is now.
COVID was probably the best thing to happen at Airsoft.
It's true.
Because
Oh, yeah.
people were staying home and watching the internet, and
Yeah.
they were seeing airsoft, and man, those stimmies, it's debatable if it was good or bad long term, but in that moment, people were spending their stimmies on airsoft.
Absolutely.
And I was able to actually form my business as a result of this influx of tech work. I tried quitting teching, but then it was just like, keep build. I couldn't turn it down. I was like, oh, you know what I'm saying? I'll build you a gun. I'll build you a replica, not a gun.
I think the day that Emperor Lord Cuomo opened up New York, praise be his name. I think the day or the weekend that we first opened up, we had some stupid amount of people.
Bro, there was like 220 players that day.
It was
That was the first day we were
crazy.
opening back up, and it was like line out the door. The line at the registration counter went to the end of the AstroTurf. We're just looking at each other.
I'm
going,
sure.
Yeah, social
I mean,
distancing, right?
people just wanted to probably get out in the woods and run around and
man.
breathe air and
Oh yeah.
live life.
But we're like going back to the owner part, right?
Yeah.
I'm thinking about all the restrictions and all this stuff. You're not supposed to have this amount of many people, near each other, and then everybody's gonna be 6 feet apart. When there's 60 people in a line, and you put 6 feet in between each person, that line stretches all the way down the driveway. Like
Anyone who was showing up to do that obviously wasn't concerned with.
you'd be surprised.
Yeah.
That's crazy. That's
Everybody-
crazy. People would show up and be like, "We need to be 6 feet apart." And it's
Well,
like
so I
you're
had-
in the middle of a public thing.
Yeah, so I had to for the safety brief and everything, I had to spray paint little X's
Yep.
on the ground so people do that.
Cover your ass too.
Yeah, people wore masks and all that whatnot. But I told people once they started to play, if they took their mask off, to breathe.
Yeah, absolutely.
I wouldn't say too much, but I think we only had one complaint that day. Keep in mind, there's 250 people.
That's crazy.
Clamoring to get out, and then you got this
Yeah.
one guy who pulls in the driveway and pulls out, and then he writes a scathing review because
Yeah.
I saw a guy take his mask off. I don't feel safe.
That
And I was
dude
like,
showed up there to write a bad review.
yeah. And I was like, my guy, when I made the video or the post about coming out, I said, don't do anything you're not comfortable with.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
And he wasn't comfortable. So
That's crazy.
yeah.
So now you have the buildings and whatnot, and it sounds like these guys were playing at the time. So you guys are, I'm guessing, were working around each other and talking. When you acquired the property, were you already in talks with doing a pro shop with him, or was that something that he approached you with? How did the pro shop get added in?
So there was a previous tenant, and they were doing their thing, and then they decided to leave. So I guess when we took over the property, we
Yeah.
already had a tenant ready to go, right? So they moved in, did very well, and they decided to leave.
The pro shop's just filled with merch, guns, stuff like that.
Yeah, parts
Yeah.
and consumables, stuff like that. And then when the previous tenant was like, "Hey, we're getting out of here," I grabbed a whole group of people because originally I was like, I should be doing it.
Yeah.
As opposed to just collecting a rent check, I should be doing this. And then I thought about the time and all this
Yep.
stuff, and I was like, I don't know if I have the time to do this.
Yep.
So
Now you're babysitting.
yeah, right. So so we got a bunch of people together, saw who was interested. Jordan and 3 others were interested, and I said, look, here's the rent every month that goes to me. Get it done. And they did. They went in there and they're kicking ass.
So when you originally went in there, what was your idea on how you wanted the pro shop to be, seeing that the first one, I guess, didn't work out?
Well, no, they worked out.
Yeah.
So they did what they did, and it was working great for them. So we kind of had an idea because we moved in January 1st. Well, December 31st of last year at 6 p.m. we moved in. And our first day being open was January 1st. And we're like, oh, this is going to be great. So overnight, you got to make a shop.
Yep.
It was vacuuming, moving display cases, getting rentals set up. And thankfully, it wasn't crazy January 1st, but it was a good day to be open.
Did you already have equipment and stuff to rent out?
So we bought the rental equipment from the previous
Makes
business
sense.
because they were moving. They didn't need to bring all the rentals with them. So we were just like, we'll buy your rentals from you. But UPS, because of the holiday season, our first shipment shipped out December 1st because we were trying to be ready to go. January 1st, packages aren't here yet.
No.
I have enough stuff to put in a display case, maybe half the size of this table, and that's it. Now, thankfully, we've done pretty well. It's been a busy season, and we're, filling the shop slowly as we go on.
You're good, man.
Okay. Yeah, it's been a progressive learning process because day one you're like, okay, I know airsoft, I know video editing, I know the industry. I've never owned a retail store before. And I've got my business partners, and we're like, we can do this. We can make it work. We just have to learn a little bit at a time. So every day it's a new learning experience, whether it's dealing with vendors, dealing with distributors, UPS and FedEx, which are a huge headache as well. So it's like you're trying to fight with all that plus the COVID stuff.
Yeah.
So you've got, this is on back order. This isn't expected for another 3-4 months, products that players want, and we just can't get our hands on them because of backlogged inventory. They're not being there. But all in all, working with the field, because that's the big thing. We're on site with the field. So players show up and anything they need, we have to have it ready for them. And then on top of that, we have Anthony next door doing all the tech work. So when players buy stuff from us, they want it upgraded or eventually, because all airsoft guns break. We all know that. When the gun breaks, they can bring it right to Anthony and he can do some crazy magic with it. So the 3 businesses together since January 1st has just been crazy.
What was your idea going in there? How did you guys want to make the vibe of it? How did you guys want, is like there's specific products you wanted to carry? Like, what was your envision of having the best pro shop for the course?
So we've all seen it. There's products that players buy because they're cheap, and there's products players buy because they know they're the best products. You have to have some of the cheap stuff, which as a player I've been playing for 10 years. I know it's not the best thing, but I know I have to carry it because that player that's just trying to get by on a little bit of an investment, they want that. But we wanted to have the better and best option because you're going to end up buying the cheap stuff and you're going to learn because, buy once, cry once, but you're going to buy the cheap stuff, it's going to break. So we've been trying to progressively move the player base towards having that better equipment from the jump. That's why when you walk into the shop, all of our replicas, all of our gear is that mid to high tier gear so that going into it, you're getting the best quality product you can at a decently affordable cost. Like we can't compete with some of the online retailers. We just can't. So we have to try and give you the best options we can within a budget. And that was kind of the thing moving forward. We didn't want to sell you just the cheap junk that inevitably breaks. And we didn't want to bring you a product that sucked. We wanted to give you the good stuff.
Did you start getting into, I see your shirt. So did you start getting into having your guys' own merch there and stuff like that?
So this is a test run. I literally had it printed last night.
Nice. I like it.
But
it was the first thing I noticed. I was like, oh, that's a cool shirt.
Yeah, we did hoodies for staff, right at the beginning of the year because we wanted something and it was cold out, so hoodies made sense. We've been trying to find the right t-shirt guy because there's so many options. And then it's seeing the quality. Like this one, I can already see some of the stuff I don't like about it. So maybe we try a different sample with a different company until we find the one that we want. But t-shirts, hats, we were looking at doing face wraps because a lot of players they wear camo face wraps, getting one with our logo on it. It's an option and it's something we're trying to do. It's just getting the right product.
What equipment do you need to start out?
Oh, bare minimum, eye protection, gun, usually a mouse guard because most people don't want to get shot in the teeth. And that's really it. I mean, battery, a charger, and BBs to go with the gun, but that's the bare minimum. You can get on the field for under $300. Now, obviously, higher end stuff, then you're buying plate carriers, chest rigs, extra magazines, different kind of batteries, optics, flashlights, suppressors, the whole 9.
Yeah.
The whole kit and caboodle. You can buy it all in the store. It's just bare minimum versus are you willing to spend $3,000?
Now I'm kind of seeing the angle on there's way more accessories and things to do instead of paintball.
Yeah, you can really do everything to your airsoft replica airsoft gun. Like Dave has a red dot, a suppressor, and a grip. I have a thermal optic on mine. Anthony's got a bunch of different accessories that he runs on his.
I have a bunch of different guns.
Yeah, and that's the thing too. You can't have just one.
Yeah.
You think you're done with one,
That's true.
and then you want 2, 3, 4. You start buying project guns because you're like, I really like that movie, and I want to rebuild that gun from that movie because I may not use it, but it's going to look good on the wall. You start having projects on the side where you're just investing money slowly.
So when you start getting into the projects, that's where he comes in because now you can start customizing, building your own, and doing all that. How did you get started in, I guess, airsoft, and then where did it grow you to doing the 3D printing and everything else that you're doing?
So I'm here now 3D printing like custom parts that I designed for like niche airsoft guns that don't have an aftermarket for them at all. And it started with me looking at my dad's like Bud K catalog when I was a kid, looking at like the really awful airsoft selection they had. I thought that was peak airsoft. Eventually I saw videos like, Night Game in Utah and things like that, and realized that airsoft was way more. Being a Call of Duty fan, Battlefield, it was like, oh my god, the M4 from MW2 is on this website. It has the same rail and everything, you know. So
yeah, that younger generation coming up, that like, it's crazy because I grew up playing computer games, and like I grew up when like I started with Coleco, and then it went to Nintendo, Super Nintendo, but like it's weird seeing my friends' kids that they're introduced to video games with Call of Duty.
the bridge, there's
And
that.
then it's like because then they don't really like anything else because they like that first person shooter, where I was brought up on like puzzle solving, and like the computer games were like a lot more different. They were the side scrollers and you actually had to think, and it was more like the Tomb Raider games and The Last of Us and stuff like that. But there's a whole generation that is only like Call of Duty, first person shooters, don't care, Halo, blah, like they'll buy the same game every year. So it makes sense now seeing the transition from that community that's obsessed with that, then be like, oh, well, we could go do this, and then we could also make replicas of these guns that are in the games or for purchase. It's really making a lot of sense on how this is evolving into something massive.
Yeah, I mean, and like the bridges between demographics are real. Like there's a strong correlation between people that are into Call of Duty and Battlefield that then get into airsoft.
Yeah.
And the way that they find it too is interesting because they watch gameplay videos. So there's this guy Level Cap Gaming, he did gameplay videos, but then he got into playing airsoft. So now he did airsoft gameplay videos. So just by virtue of watching this video game channel, now you know airsoft exists and it's pretty cool, whatever. So I anyway, at this point I'm like a shitty tech, right? I'm like 13 or whatever. I got my first gun. I played at Zulu, and I mainly did a lot of backyard shooting. I had a very cringy first YouTube channel where I reviewed guns. I was young.
Gotta start somewhere, man. I wouldn't even go back and look at my first podcast.
I have a lot of skin in this game. I've been doing it for a while. So
yeah,
and,
that's how you learn.
Yeah, so you know, I always tinkered with stuff. Big Lego kid, doing all that stuff. I used to make like Lego stop motions. I was always into like content creation and tinkering and doing really weird, niche, nerdy crap. You know, broke my first gun, cried. Got it working again, sort of, fell apart. So I ended up going down this rabbit hole of like, I want my gun to work when I play, and I got more obsessed with thinking about how I can build the gun to be better than actually playing. So I spent a lot of time in my early years playing airsoft, just learning how to tech guns.
When you say tech guns, what does that mean?
You buy like a Subaru R5, right? And then you put like different things in it. You upgrade it. You know, turbos, whatever have you. It's like that with airsoft. So you'll buy a gun and you replace parts in it so that it performs better.
That's cool. I did that with I got into motorcycles. I got a Honda Grom.
Same
and
thing.
There's like that whole culture where like the bike I don't even think would be that popular if it wasn't for the culture behind it, because there's so like you can put the exhaust on it, the fender eliminator, and I'm in a rabbit hole now.
Right.
And that.
Yeah.
I can get it to go 70.
Yeah. So like a big thing at the time was getting a gun that shot like 30 rounds a second. Or so it was getting it to shoot as hard as possible, as fast as possible, because fields at the time weren't so strict on semi-auto only or super strict FPS limits. Saw that fly?
It's Peter.
Yeah,
he's part of the studio.
Hey, Peter. Peter.
I'm gonna kill him later.
Yeah. So I was just learning how to tech. I mean, I remember I was in like my school class window shopping. Like I would make shopping carts of build outs for guns that I was never going to build because I couldn't afford it. And, you know, time progressed. All I could think about was just teching. So I was getting my guns where I wanted it to be. Fast forward, old Zulu. We call it old Zulu because it was at that original property that it was at. I would show up and, you know, I set up like a little table occasionally.
He is not joking.
Yeah.
So here we are, like lining up to play airsoft or running the field, and all of a sudden this kid and his girlfriend come over,
now my wife,
and set up a little chair and table, and then hang a little handwritten sign and tape it on the front.
Did he
of the
ask
table.
you to do this?
No, he just did it. And I was like, Mario, who's that? And Mario would laugh and go, I guess that's the new tech. And we just kind of we just joked about it because Mario and I were both real big on entrepreneurship and giving people opportunities to
Absolutely.
do so. And so when you see a kid, I'm talking a kid. When you see a kid doing that, you're like, good for him. That's like selling lemonade on the corner, but he's actually in the right spot to be doing what he's doing.
Yeah.
So,
When I was 16, I looked 12, so it was probably adorable. They were like, this kid. Oh man, it was, and I got maybe one or two customers, and all my early customers up until.
What was your thought on just showing up there and doing that? Did you think that he would be coming out and be like, yo, what are you doing, bro?
I was like, I'm just going to do it.
Yeah.
And I mean, I know where the lines are drawn. If you asked me to stop, I would stop. But I also know sometimes if you just do it, like if you try to bring it up and like show up dressed really nice, hi, I would really like to do this. It just seems kind of scammy and scummy, and people often turn it away. So I was like, I'm just going to show up and see what happens, and
that's a fun ride in.
Yeah, and man, my now wife, she was so supportive, man. She was always there. So, my first couple customers were cool. I charged like nothing, and I would spend hours. I would say that I could do shit that I couldn't do, but I was destined. I locked myself in. I was like, I'm going to learn this on your gun. I didn't tell them that.
Yeah.
I was like, yes, I can do it. And, at the time I was boasting like I have 2 years tech experience, and whatever I could do. The guys that would let me work on their stuff, they were super down to earth. They probably saw what like Dave and Mario saw. And, I understood at the time they were just giving, the kid a chance. So I did it, ran with it. And I was just kind of.
What were you doing to the guns? Were you like fixing them? Were you doing upgrades
full
to them?
Upgrades,
Yeah.
Full upgrade. In fact, on my...
So when you say upgrades, it's like installing things to make the gun better,
Yeah.
or parts that they would buy and then you would have to install so they wouldn't be stuck trying to do that in a parking lot with a...
Right. So to get into it, right, not everybody is good. They either don't have the knowledge or the equipment or even just the skill, like the finesse to work on an airsoft gun. You can fuck a lot of things up by doing it wrong, basically. The parts are not drop-in. You have to really tune it. And there's all these relationships between all the parts that make the gun work well. And because there's no standard in airsoft like an automotive, you have to really shim everything. Everything has to be tuned to specifically what you're putting together. So, and with that said, a lot of guns out of the box either work very poorly or they don't work. So when you play airsoft, you want to show up and you want to be able to play uninterrupted. If you're going to have like an M249 saw for support, you want to be able to hold the trigger nonstop and not let go, because you're playing that role. You're immersing yourself in the sport, and you're worried about all that, feeling cool, looking cool, and getting a lot of BB kills.
Yeah, you want to disappear.
Yeah, and it's a lot of stock guns, like you can buy any stock M249, you'll pull the trigger and it'll probably die in like 10 seconds if you just hold it, or whatever have you. I mean, I've had ones die sooner. They're shit. So there's a real need to upgrade it if you're going to get into the sport.
Not wrong.
It's just bad.
Yeah.
And so I got into that, and I was fixing guns. I tried to really make a business out of it. Everybody that let me do it was like they're helping out the kid. Everybody else was just like, it's just this kid. There's other like shops that would do tech work, and at the time for the standards, like they were up to the standards up to that date, and everybody was happy with it. There was like Sistemas. He still boasts about his Sistema, and it's a different system than typical airsoft guns. But, I was still young. I was graduated high school. I started going to school for music. And when I was going to school for music, I was playing in a band and all this stuff. And I kind of put airsoft down because I was like, man, maybe I'm really weird for being really into this. Maybe I should try to do something a little bit more like cool and looked on better by, my family and peers, like music. And then it backfired because music actually sucks as a career. So then
it's tough. It's tough to get into.
At this time, I tried to quit. Throughout this time where I'm doing music and I'm in college and stuff, I'm reffing at New Zulu. Prior to me reffing at New Zulu, I was actually still putting a table up, and then eventually I got hired by Mario. So I'm just going through school. Whatever. Music didn't work out. When COVID happened, I realized that music is not viable, and you're not important if you're just entertaining people in a time of crisis. You can't really produce anything that's going to help people with like the physical matters in life. And before doing music, I actually was going for an engineering degree, transferred to do music, and then COVID happened. And I was like, all right, I'm just going to go back to engineering. And the tech thing just happened. It just happened. People just kept asking me to work on guns, and I kind of didn't have a choice because the money was good, and the demand kept going up, and I got to a point where like I got so much work that I had to raise my prices to not get as much work.
Yeah.
And now I'm still in that position, and I'm so trying not to do that. I don't want to keep raising the price, so I'm just like putting pauses on when I accept work. But whatever, I'm doing all the stuff out of my mom's garage. And she was awesome. You know, she bought me this bench. She helped me buy these tools. She's so like supported me in doing this. And things fast forward. The field's where it's at. They have this pro shop with the previous owners, and now there's this need for tech work. There's COVID. Everybody's spending their stimmies on the airsoft tech, and I'm able to form an actual like LLC. It made more sense because I was like, I can get wholesale on parts. I can actually up my profit margin on what I'm doing by, being able to actually sell the parts too, getting them at
Yeah.
And in the shop that was there at the time, they required that I be formed as an LLC in order for them to do any business with me. So I was like, sure, I'll do it. And I was doing this weird back and forth thing. I was giving them like a commission, which looking back at it, I was probably really ripping myself off by agreeing to that. And
You learn in the beginning.
Yeah, and part of me setting up my LLC and getting a certain distributor account was I had to be a brick and mortar. Can't do that out of your mom's garage. So I went and I rented out a small like office space in the town that I lived in, which I was fixing airsoft guns. I was transporting like dozens of guns like back and forth, like, in this busy town. And in this back room, and I didn't really have anywhere to test it, so I would have to drive to the field. And I was reffing there at the time, so Dave was like, cool if I went there and tested guns. And I ended up having to leave that spot because basically that building had stipulations in their lease that made it so I couldn't really be there. It would cripple me if I were to stay there and follow whatever it is they wanted me to do. So I talked to Dave about it, and I was like, hey, man.
I'm the table guy.
Things are looking really rough. Now, the room that I'm in now was the ref locker room. So I was really intruding on the boys by, like, even entertaining the idea. Meanwhile, Dave and Mario, and even Jordan, they were, like, fed up with how the room was being treated because we're just a bunch of boys, and everybody just left their crap everywhere. And Dave wanted to do something with the room, and Jordan got tired of cleaning it up. And Mario...
Yeah, you get sick of that shit fast when you got real things going on.
Yeah, and Dave basically let me have a sliver of the room for, like a super good deal. And thanks, man. Thank you. Thank you for...
It wasn't that good. He thinks it's good, but nobody tell him.
Yeah, the room was awful. Like, this building has like the weirdest history. Like, a guy used to live out of it, who owned it. He would like shower in it. This room, like, the foundation's cracked. There was like no wall. Like there was no sheetrock or insulation in the wall. There's mice running in and out. There's crap. Like, I had a mouse crawl into my toolbox and die. And for like 2 weeks, we're walking in there like, what's that smell?
This is prime real estate he's talking about right now.
All the guys walking in, I'm like, do you smell that? It smells like something's dying.
It's going home with me.
I thought it was food in the garbage. Eventually, I was walking. I was like, it's right here. It's right. So I'm like sniffing for it. I found this dead. It was disgusting. Eventually, I rented out the whole room, and that's where I'm at now. I guess renovated it, so like all the walls are patched up. It's insulated. It's sealed off from the outside. The floors are like, we have nice vinyl floor on it. I got multiple benches. I'm able to multitask like hell. I have 2 3D printers in there now, and now I get to really do the R&D stuff. I get to like fix problems in airsoft guns that don't have an aftermarket. So before, you were buying parts that existed for models that existed, and you were tuning it up just with better quality parts. Some guns now don't even have the parts available because nobody designed it, because there's no point, because it's niche, or maybe they haven't caught up yet. So I get to do that, and that's what I'm really excited about doing. I would like to turn what I'm doing more into that, as opposed to just always doing a custom gun, because it takes a lot of time, and it's all elbow grease. All that revenue is it's all this. There's nothing residual about it, and it makes it harder to expand. And it, being that I'm the only tech, I have no employees, and it's really difficult to get somebody to help out with something like that, because it's a niche skill. It's just, I feel like I'm in a good position right now to turn it into something else that's a bit more beneficial, and maybe I can offer more to the field and airsoft. Oh, and then in addition to that, on the weekends when the field's open, I have my window, so people can show up and get quick things done.
Yeah.
Like quick diagnosis.
That's great to have that available there, so that if somebody's stuff gets screwed up, you can get it fixed and they can go back out and their weekend's not over. If somebody drives all the way out there and then forgets, hey, I didn't get this. Now, are you connected to the pro shop?
Like,
or by the pro shop?
We're in the same building. We're a door away. And
Yeah. So that works out too, because then you can go from the pro shop and then you have the availability for that.
Yeah. I mean, it's a real lifesaver for some people, because like you said, some people come from different states, and their whole weekend will get ruined when their gun is broken. I've lent my gun out to people before. And what's also cool is that I can kind of give a service that not every custom tech service can, insofar as the people that come to Zulu all the time, if they leave their gun with me and maybe there's a wait time, oftentimes it's like months, within those months where their gun is waiting to get worked on, they can come in and grab it and use it for the day if it's not completely broken.
Yeah.
So most people want to just upgrade.
It's really cool how the three of you guys came together to offer an elite version of what you wanted to start.
Yeah, I mean, that was, I guess, maybe I didn't know it back then, but I know it now. Like, that's what I always wanted. I wanted a one-stop shop. I call it my little trailer park.
Yeah.
Like I wanted, like,
but
just,
you also realize down the road is that you can't do all that. Like, you're not going to be able to do the tech work, the pro shop, and run everything, plus have a normal life. You need to build it out. And I mean, for these guys to be coming up there, and then it just kind of like slowly became what it became, those are the best stories, because it just naturally happened with like networking, hard work, and making it go.
We're committed to each other, I feel, because like at the end of the day, like our businesses hover around the field. I mean, it's more than just the field. It's also the community that gravitates towards it. So every weekend, man, you can be sure that you can come down and play good airsoft. And
each one of you gives it's like each one of you brings it up a level to where you have the pro shop there and all the things that you offer, to where you can get completely suited out, or you have the helicopter and the crazy ideas that you have going on. But you can also get your gun customized. It's like a one-stop shop. Why would you want to go anywhere else?
We want to protect it. We want to protect airsoft in general.
Well, it's that, but it's also having, because like going back to the standards thing, we all hold each other to that high standard.
Yeah.
Like
and go on.
I was going to say, like, Anthony and I have talked about it before. Like, the reason we don't do tech work in the shop is because he does good tech work.
Yeah.
If I were to mess up somebody's gun, by proxy, they would say, oh, I got my gun done at Zulu, and he'd be known for doing shit work. Same way as when people come out to play, they want the best experience.
And the way it's set up is almost everyone that comes through is a potential customer for all of you. So it's like then everybody has to kind of treat everybody with the same amount of respect, and you all have to have the same amount of work ethic, because if he was slacking and then it was like, oh, well, I like going up there, but the tech guy sucks, then it just starts kind of diminishing that. So then now the core and the partnerships and the people that are all working together you got to carry the boat.
Yep. Everybody's got to be held to that standard, because if one person's slacking off and one business starts to slide, then it looks bad on everyone.
I always remind these guys too, when I'm joking around or some shit's going down, I'm like, remember, Zulu was here before you, and Zulu will be here long after you. So don't think that you can just skimp by. And I tell them, every car that comes down our driveway is 100% interested in airsoft in one way, shape, or form. I was like, you have an amazing storefront right on the Main Street Airsoft USA, where you're pretty much guaranteed 100 eyeballs will see your store, your tech. We also have a snack bar as well. Do you
have hot dogs?
We do have hot dogs.
Yeah.
I think this weekend they're doing empanadas.
Yeah.
Empanadas, yeah.
Do you bring food up there?
So I don't. again, my little trailer park.
Yeah.
I don't run the snack bar.
It's smart, though.
Rent that out as well.
Yeah.
And she does good stuff over there. They had chili last week.
Yeah, they did.
Empanadas this week. They always
That's
have hot
cool
dogs
because,
and
like,
stuff, yeah.
you know, feeding all those people who are burning calories all day long, or that are just up there to be like, hey, like everything is up there. Like we don't need to go anywhere. They can fix the guns. You can buy guns. They have everything you need. Plus they're gonna feed us. And then, you know, like when you guys were talking about those like overnight things, you know, you're able to be taken care of.
Yeah, that was kind of the whole thought was once you enter the property for the day,
You don't gotta go.
you do not have to leave. You know, and that kind of keeps them there and keeps them interested and it's fun.
I started getting into the YouTube channel that you sent over.
Oh god.
Oh, that's my personal channel.
Yeah. How did you get into
Vector?
how did you get into running that on the high level that it is and the followers and where did that come into a play, and do you take that and also put it into the business?
So yes and no. So that's a tale as old as time. I got a GoPro for Christmas when I was like 13.
Yeah.
And my mom was like, "Look, you're doing this thing." She thought it was really weird. I was playing with guns in the woods with older men. She's like, "I'm not a big fan, but here's a GoPro, so we can."
Old Jeffrey Dahmer.
Yeah, she's like, "Here's a GoPro for Christmas. Go nuts." And you go to school, and the school I went to at a time, my high school, we had a TV like news network in school.
Yeah.
Instead of doing the announcements over the PA, they had a TV station. So I was like, walked in, go, hey, I want to learn how to edit. Learned how to edit on Final Cut Pro back in 2012,
Yeah,
2013.
it's crazy how the schools are. I went over to my buddy's school because when I was in school, they didn't really have that. They did the announcements, but it was just the kids over top of the speaker that the principal had. I went into Nazareth, and they have an entire it's way more money invested into it than this.
yeah.
It's nuts. And then I was like, man, I'm like, that's crazy that you could go in there and learn editing and like you make some real money with that skill set from TV production.
Well, that was the thing. We had lighting, green screens, multiple cameras. We had a computer lab with all Macs. So it's you had everything you needed to learn editing and video production while you were there. And fast forward later down the line, that's what we do now at Zulu. We set up a green screen, we do the lighting, set up a camera.
Yeah, I saw you guys do the announcement videos and stuff.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's all shot actually in the store. I just set the green screen up
Just
and the
keep
lighting.
multi-using every amount of space.
But the thing was, Airsoft was at that point in 2013, 2014 where it was just starting to get big on YouTube. This was like right around the time where a lot of the popular Airsoft YouTubers, as we refer to them, like they got big. And my friend and I, with his dad, drove all the way to Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and went and played in an Airsoft game in a shopping mall. It was an abandoned shopping mall. They were like, we're going to rent it out to this Airsoft company, and we did a 2-day game there. I'm like 16, 17, running around.
How was that to do indoor like that?
Oh, it was so cool.
Okay, the malls, like even the mall down the road, they're empty.
Yeah, this was 2-story mall, no stores, everything was clear.
2 stories, that's going to be crazy.
It was absolutely insane, but I just hit my GoPro on and let it run for 30, 45 minutes at a time, and we get back to the hotel, and I'm like, I'm going to upload all the raw footage, thinking like, this is going to get millions of views, this is going to be cool. Plot twist, it did. So a bunch of Airsoft pages saw it on Facebook, and they were like, look, these like 16, 17-year-olds in the US are running around playing in a shopping mall, and started resharing the video. One of those videos has like 700,000 views.
That's crazy.
Channel went from 10 subscribers to 1,000 in a week. And I'm like, oh, well, this is like something we can keep up with. And with my friends and I, we just started taking all of our gameplay footage. I learned how to edit at school.
Yeah.
Mash it together, 3 5-minute videos, put it to music, and just start posting it online. It gains a following because
Do
of
you monetize that?
No,
Can
I
you?
can't. I can't because it's all copywritten music.
Yeah.
So if I use non-copywritten music, I could monetize on my
But
channel.
when you start getting into
I'll write a song for every
Yeah,
single
absolutely.
video.
Yeah. When you start getting into the it's what sucks is I ran into a lot of that problems, and like that's what I like about Reels is that you can use copywritten music, but you're not really monetizing off of it. But like when you are creating like that and editing and you have an idea of it, like, oh, I'll use this song, to use music that you have to create or non-copyrighted music is not the same effect as if you would have a really good song going in the background.
Yep.
So it's kind of like a double-edged sword where you get the content out and you can make people feel how you feel, but then you're not making any money off of it because the royalties are going Because I think if you do turn the monetization on, the money goes to the artist, they say.
Yep,
But
it does.
Who knows?
At least with
how
YouTube, because like
that goes.
some of my
It's the music.
Yeah. They're like, here's a half a penny. We'll keep the rest.
The music payment rabbit hole is complicated.
Yeah. A friend of mine was a musician for a while, and he was explaining, like, because I was like, I love Spotify, and he was like, and he like went down the rabbit hole of like what they actually take and the money you make, and he's like, I mean, you were dead on with a lot of it. It's very hard to make money anymore off of music and being a musician. That's why you get a lot of the the one hits, and they just make stuff pop, and then you get your money off of one song instead of making a whole album.
yeah.
It's like this. Have you heard of Polyphia?
No.
So they're like a math rock band, and as far as like that genre of instrumental music goes, they're like top tier. Like they tour the world. Despite the fact that they tour the world, obviously they have to get paid for the tour and for streaming. Like they still are selling like guitar tutorials online.
Yeah.
Probably like because they have to.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's what they told him. Like, make your money with touring, make your money with merch, and then he's like, well, why are you making money off my music? And I'm not.
Like touring
It was
isn't
an interesting
already
conversation.
Yeah, like touring isn't already a full-time thing, man.
Yeah.
So your channel popped?
Yeah, it popped off really good. Some of our videos, we were getting between 10,000 and like 15,000 on average per video. And
It's extremely, like, I didn't know, like, people will send me their YouTube stuff, and I know how hard it is to grind out YouTube subscribers and all that. And when I saw your channel, I was like, damn. I was like, these are legit fucking real numbers.
Yeah, it's just like that's the fun channel for me.
Yeah.
I don't do any long form content on it. I just post gameplay montages from either Zulu or when we go travel to those 40-hour games. And they have a following when it comes to those videos because people like to watch the quick original action videos.
Yeah.
It's just it gives them something entertaining. They watch 3 to 5 minutes ago, that weekend was fun, and move on to the next video. But monetizing them, no, it would be impossible because like I use Metallica in some of them. I've used Queen.
Because it sucks because, like, well, how I edit or when I'm going through something or, like, when I capture something, I'm like, that'll be perfect. And it's, when you're driving around listening to music, like, that's how I do reels now. Like, I did a slow motion of, I made an egg sandwich and the egg yolk was perfect and I knew it would pop if I pushed on it. So I did it and I slow-moed it. And, I drive around sometimes and I'm, like, listening for, like, the drop, and like I'll just be on Spotify and I'm like, all right, so like I don't have the time to create a song or pay someone to create the song. I mean, I've done it once with a commercial that I dropped, the working class thing, and like that was a ton of work. And then I realized like I'm not there yet to be like paying somebody and like be ahead that much on projects. But like, if you're just dropping those quick hitters, why slow down the subscriptions and all that? Because you could always figure it out later on down the road and be, like switch over, or like one video you can monetize on, you know what I mean? Like there's always a way to figure it out later, but like that channel probably wouldn't be the same if you were just using unlicensed music.
No, it wouldn't be, because that's the thing, like you're using music that people like and people enjoy.
Like the Call of Duty commercials now, like they use like I think the new one they're using Smashing Pumpkins, and they like do such a good job of like they make like I was like, man, I want to buy this game.
The funny thing there is like
I'm like, I know it's the same one as last year, but
but the funny thing is like 2019 when Call of Duty released the Modern Warfare like reboot trailer, they used the same Metallica song I used for a video in 2020 because I had started editing that video in 2019 and the Call of Duty commercial came out. I'm like, son of a bitch. It's like anything I post with this song for the next 6 months, everyone's gonna be like, oh, you use this because of Call of Duty. I'm like, I started editing that like 3 months before that commercial came out, because that video was a combination of the last like 12 or 13 Milsom West games we went to. It was 40 hours of footage from 13 different games, all edited to one 6 or 7 minute video, and that video did super well because the amount of footage you have to make content with is astounding.
Must be flattering for Call of Duty to copy you.
Hell yeah. But you have that plus a good song, and it was posted at the right time. I posted that video like May of 2020, right in the peak of lockdown, when everyone's, like Anthony said, they're watching airsoft videos because they can't go out and play, and they're stuck home. They can't go to work.
That's how we got on Tiger King, because when Tiger King popped, they were obviously making they were already discussing Tiger King 2. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
they were already looking in to do that. So I didn't understand how we ended up on that. A buddy of mine called me and he was like, yo, season 2 Tiger King. And I'm like, yeah, I know. I didn't get to watch it yet. And he's like, we're on it. And I was like, what? And I turned it on. And in the first 12 minutes, they mentioned Joe Rogan, Jim and Sam, and Never Again Studio. And
My guy, that's good company, man.
I want to know how we got there.
I was like, how did we get here? So at first I was like, all right, well, somebody probably knew somebody. Somebody watches this channel. Like, you don't type in Tiger King and find any of what we're doing. I was just hashtagging Tiger King when we would put out episodes because we were discussing Tiger King because it was so outrageous at that time. You couldn't not talk about it.
Yeah, but that also probably helped you get picked up in the algorithm because you're using a popular hashtag.
Well, what happened is we were the only people podcasting and doing like shows. So Joe Rogan was doing content on Tiger King because he didn't stop the podcast because they were getting tested to come on. Jim and Sam were doing their show, I think, still in studio, and at the same time we were also doing ours and we didn't stop. So when they were searching hashtag Tiger King, the only thing that was coming up that was like, this is fully produced. So like, if this looked like shit, they wouldn't have used it for Netflix, but because our audio, our video, it's stronger than most, that it was usable content. So the one day I ran into somebody at a bar and they were like, dude, you were on fucking Tiger King. I was like, yeah, whatever. It was a fun day. People thought I made money. I'm like, they didn't even ask. I'm like,
oh, no, come on, it's Netflix. They're not going to ask. They're just going to do what they want.
Yeah, so, and I didn't care. They're like, sue them. And I'm like, that was massive exposure. So what he told me is they broke it down on Jim and Sam and that they had found out that like when they started looking to make the second season, they were searching the hashtag, and the only people that were coming up at that time during the pandemic were us because we were the only people recording at that time in that moment. That's how they found the footage. And that's what makes sense because if you type in Tiger King on YouTube, it does not bring up my podcast for anything. So then they pulled that, and then it was just stuff that went into the ether, and then it went up and out. It's weird.
Yeah, no, but I mean, because we deal with it too, because like, moving forward with all of that video production I've done for my personal stuff, Dave goes, hey, right around end of 2020, early 2021, Dave goes, hey, look, I want to start doing a video series for the field.
Well, that was going to be my follow-up is how did you guys start applying your actual knowledge of all this to, because your social media is good. Like, I love following along. Like, even the announcements you guys make fun and the green, like, everything looks legit. It's not lowbrow looking.
It's come a long way.
It's come a long way. If you look at the first episode compared to where we're at now, big upgrade, big change. Because originally it was like, all right, Amazon special green screen, the cheapest lighting money can buy, and I bought a camera.
Lighting's huge. Lighting is like the main thing.
I learned that very quickly. Because
I still don't know how to set it, but I do know it's very important.
Yep, I've come a long way. I had to relearn everything
if somebody
that I learned.
bumps one of these, I'm like on the phone, like, yo.
So as the progression went with the video and the filming and all that stuff, I noticed like every month, because we do it monthly, every month I'd come in and there'd be 2 more lights and 2 more lights and 2 more lights, and finally just like, Jordan, I feel like I'm like standing in front of God right now. Like, I'm getting a sunburn.
Yeah,
from all these lights, crazy.
Figure we're using about 8 lights, and I have them all on tripods, and they're spread around the room, some high, some low, just to try and even out the green screen itself. But
yeah, because if you don't like we used to do green screen back in the day, and we'd have the guests, and I might bring it back in the next one. But what I used to do is I'd have a green screen set up over there, and then I would have the guests go over there and then like talk about. Hey, like I would have them shoot the promo, like, hey, you got to make sure to watch this, and then I would put weird stuff behind them. But if it's not lit correctly, it doesn't look like, it just looks shitty. Like there's just a terrible green screen. And yeah.
And then you start to get the grain effect, and then if you start over editing the green screen, you start to see it pop through on their shirt.
Yep.
Even though he's wearing a blue shirt and the screen's green, you'll get some figures popping. It's a lot of work to do the green screen, but once you get good at it, it's really easy.
Plug and
quick.
play.
For us, it works out because Dave's always talking about some event that's coming up, or we're doing this on this date, or here's a question that a player posed.
It's an easiest way to get the information out.
Right. And the big thing is just
People
keeping
don't read
retention.
anymore. Yeah.
Because when you start getting into that long form content, like we were talking about before, the 60, 90-second reels, you get 3,000-4,000 views on them. The monthly update, you get 1,000, and then you start looking at the retention, and you see the retention dips off the longer you get into the video.
Yeah.
And it's
It's tough because
It's the
it's like you got to
content.
be yourself, but you got to like, you know, he's got to be the version of him, which, you know, there is humor there. And, you know, like listening to that, all right, well, I am going to pay attention because he's going to make it funny and interesting. Like if you just have somebody reading a teleprompter, no one's going to hang out
Well,
for
thankfully,
that.
that's something we could say. We don't use a teleprompter.
No.
Everything is from the
Wing
hip.
it.
Dave
Wing it.
just
It's the
looks
best
and
way to
goes-
do it.
Well, he's got like his little note sheet in front of him. He's just
Yeah.
like, all right, Jordan, this is going to take a couple of tries. Let's just get this done. And he just starts reading off of it. And he goes, all right, I can free.
Yeah, I do that with the promo commercials where like with the sponsors where I'll be like, hey, like I'll rip this my way unless you have like bullet points. So then I'll take a couple of their bullet points and then you just, but that's how you get people to want to go because they're wanting to go because of you guys. So like you need to put your version of yourselves out there, and if you don't know how to capture that, it's hard to keep anyone's attention.
Yeah, it's super tough, man. I remember the first one where
Peter?
the first one where we sat down. He likes you.
Smells that mouse.
The first one we sat down to film, you know, it was like I think it was like after an open day play or something. So
Oh,
we were
no,
already
we
like
filmed on a Tuesday.
Was it a Tuesday?
Yeah.
Oh, it
I
was,
Yeah,
took
if
the
you're
day
not in the
off of
right
work.
head to film either, like that's a whole nother.
It was a long day because I mean we had nothing, we had no format, we had nothing, so we just kind of
Yep.
sat around. I mean the outtakes from that day are probably pretty good, and now we walk in on any given day of the month and like the intro, I could do that whenever. Like it's easy to do.
We've gotten to a good format with
Yeah.
it because we can shoot the intro and the outro at any point in time, and then that's extra content. We just piece that
Yeah.
together with the video.
Yeah.
The actual meat and potatoes of the video, we usually shoot in under an hour now.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Yeah, we get
And
it set up.
the intros are kind of interesting. I always try to just like come up with a funny idea. Just to it's the
You got to
attention.
grab their attention.
It's the attention grabber,
Yeah.
right? And I usually don't sit down at my desk and I'm like, okay, what's this month's intro? I just kind of think about it, shower thoughts, that type of stuff. But usually I don't have the idea till like the day before.
Yeah.
I'll
I
just,
think
like-
that's the best way to do it because you're not overthinking it and you just naturally let it happen. I'll do that a lot with the commercials where like I'll be driving around and I do a lot of my thinking while I'm driving and listening to music and I'll be like, all right, I could do that. But then like, and that's the same way I do the podcast where even like if I'm talking to somebody who's coming on and they start getting into their story a little too deep, I'll be like, whoa. I don't need to know anymore. Like I want this to be natural. And then like I had no idea how we were going to do this. I know how to control this, but for the most part, like when he was like, hey, can a third person come on? It starts getting iffy because if like today it went very well and you guys all play a key major role in what you're doing. Sometimes somebody just wants to come on and then they aren't a part of anything. And then if they want to talk and play podcasting, because I get that
Yeah.
sometimes, it's very difficult to move it all around. So like I know how to control it, but like today went very well. Like I was like, cool, like this is flowing, it's comfortable, everybody played a part, I got in and out of everything, but like if I would have overthought that, this would have been like, rah, rah, rah.
Oh, yeah,
Like,
we
'cause
would have
the
to start
beginning-
raising our hands to
like,
talk.
That's why I don't like doing it because the beginning it's tight. Like where I was like, okay, we have to go around and introduce each other. But if I wouldn't have done that, I might not have forgot, hey, shit, I forgot. We should have went back here. We should have went back here. But I don't know. I like doing it that way. I think it's natural, and I think the listener can relate to it because it's regular conversation. It isn't like, hey, hello, how are you? It's not corporate. It's
Yeah.
not. It doesn't have that feel of like polished practice.
That's why it was kind of late last week when we decided. Well, I decided I was like, Anthony should be a part of this because, in terms of the airsoft that's happening on the field, he's a critical part.
Yeah, I'm glad he came down because it really tied the whole thing nicely together because it would have just been, oh, well, Anthony should have came.
Yeah, exactly. We would have been like, oh, well, we also have a tech, and
Yeah.
I don't know exactly what he does, but he sprinkles some magic stuff
He
in the
used to have a
guns.
table.
Yeah, you should have seen it. Like that. Yeah.
I think the hardest part of that was just trying to play phone tag back and forth. 'cause
Yeah,
it was like
yeah.
text you Friday, and it's like, oh no, let's do it Saturday. Then we get.
Well, I
swamped
thought
at
you
the
guys were going to
field.
reschedule or you were canceling, which at this point, like when people do it, like I'm always like, hey, it's not a big deal. Like I'm
no.
so busy. I had somebody cancel yesterday. They're like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. And I'm like stress has come off my shoulders because usually like when I do this I don't really schedule a lot of other stuff because it's draining and there's like a lot of energy that goes into it. There's a lot that goes to it where if I double down and get a bunch of things done after this, I'll be washed out, and then like it's not beneficial for anyone. So I have another one tonight that might show up, but the communication has been like we actually were getting back to each other.
Yeah.
That doesn't happen all the time, and then I don't know anything up until today, and then I'm like, well, I might cancel because I don't even know what the fuck we're doing.
Yeah.
But like, you know, it gets into just different areas. But you guys, this story was awesome.
I appreciate it, man. I appreciate you having us.
Yeah,
on,
I didn't know. I was generally interested into learning about all of the different topics, but that's a wild story.
Yeah, man.
It's a lot of work. It's, you know, the hard work's always brushed over because you can't really explain it on a podcast or like talking to someone. Like I can sit here and be like, I've been working on this for so long, but people don't feel that.
So I just want to say one thing about, you know, we kind of brushed over. Speaking of brushing over the hard work, right? So we were at one location, decided that we couldn't buy the property because of the price. Then we moved locations to where we're at. We were only closed one weekend.
Yeah.
So in 2 weeks, we had to tear everything down that we had built. Some of it put on trailers and bring over to the new place while coordinating the contractor who is currently there building.
Yeah.
You know, and then setting up the staging area, getting all the logistics done. Taking down this one, setting up this one. We were only closed for one weekend. And
that's crazy.
I lost years off my life and pounds off my waist, and I probably need to do the same again. But
even then, like, when the new field became established, there was still so much more that like still needed to be done that got done. Like even just the staging area, we had to like set up tarps, you know, every morning. Now we have like nice metal roofs.
Yeah,
It's got
it's
nice
cool.
progression.
It's cool when you start seeing
Yeah.
the idea come together from the original. I mean, that's going to be the best. That's going to be the most satisfying thing with the new studio build because it's been talked about for like we thought we'd be open already, which I'm glad we're not because that timeline would have been insane to do what we really have to do. So it's like now we have April. So I'm like, all right, that's enough time to like slowly land this plane. But like when it all starts coming together, like I'm already thinking like, man, these 3 studios, like I'm not building them all at once. Like it's going to be too much. Like just slowly take your time and like give all that attention to one each space. And when you do that and you slowly bring it together and, you know, now you guys got these areas and you're no longer in a war bunker and things are coming back together. It's you know, it's a good moment to look back and see it and be like, man, this is pretty fucking cool. When do you guys ever close? Do you go through the winter, or how crazy are the airsoft people?
yeah, so
Pretty crazy.
we are open year round.
Yeah,
Now, we have like kind of a little bit of an unwritten rule, you know, 10 players by 10 o'clock. And obviously during the good weather, that's not even remotely an issue. But there are some days in February where we have to close because of, you know, inclement weather, stuff like that. However, there's also days in February where we are open and we've got 20, 30 people out there.
yeah. Because I figure with the recreation of like, you know, the idea of it, there's always the winter aspect, and then you got your different camos and people getting into that. And then, I mean, do people do overnights and like do fires and like try and stay out there in the woods in the cold? Like, how crazy does it get?
Hell no.
Not yet.
Look,
Not yet.
this is, you know, we call it mill sim, you know, it's the simulation part, you know, that everybody's into, you know. We're not actually fighting the global war on terrorism here. So there's no reason not to go to a hotel and get a hot shower.
Yeah,
stuff
yeah,
like that,
yeah.
you know.
But that's the thing too. Like there's levels of craziness to airsofters, and we always say we've been playing long enough to know we don't want to do that. So
Yeah.
the kids that you see out in the pouring rain or in the middle of a snowstorm that's making Anthony and I have to stand out there reffing in the freezing snow, like as we're like, we just want to go home because we know this is a bad idea.
Yeah.
It's all the newer players. It's all the younger kids. They're like, you know, that one mission in Call of Duty where you get to play in the snow, that was really cool. I want to do that in real life. So they're running around in their snowsuits, but you'll get that. I mean, however, though, in January, we always have a really good turnout because...
Yeah, for our anniversary. I think it's 13 years.
Yeah, this year's next year, 13.
That's right, next year, 13. I usually do like a discount. It's basically Zulu's way of like giving back.
Yeah.
And everybody gets a discount. I buy pizza for everybody that shows up. It's kind of funny. I go to like the Price Chopper, and I'm like, hey, I need 50 pizzas. And they're like, ha, 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 click. And I call back, no, really, I need 50 pizzas.
Yeah.
Ha ha ha. And then I usually have to go down there and be like, hey man, I'm for real and I'll pay right now. I need 50 pizzas for this date in January, and I'm going to pick them up at this time. And they're like, oh, that's right, I remember you from last year.
Yeah.
But like the first year, they're like, no, this dude's going to prank us. We're going to make 50 pizzas, and then we're just going to have 50 pizzas laying around. I was like, no, I really need 50 pizzas.
That's cool that you do that.
Yeah, you want to see 50 pizzas freaking vanish?
Yeah.
Holy
I'm
cow.
sure.
Tell player there's free pizza,
Yeah.
and they will show up.
Now, when you were mentioning hotel rooms and stuff, so is that what a lot of people do who travel? Is they'll stay around that area?
Yeah, so Stewart International Airport is like right around the corner. And also the crossroads in between 87 and 84 are also there. And so there's plenty of hotels and stuff like that. So I do allow camping during the summertime when it's nice weather. I always tell
That was my follow-up was going to be, do you have people, like, especially with how now is like people turning their Ford Transits into campers, and you have a lot of people that'll just stay there for the weekend?
Yeah, so if they're coming from far away, Connecticut, western side of Pennsylvania, that type of thing, they'll stay in like campers or whatnot. And I always tell them the same thing. I'm like, always abide by the golden rule. And they're like, what's that? I'm like, don't do dumb shit.
Yeah.
Like, just don't do dumb shit, And it's worked out so far, man. And everybody's pretty respectful, and they clean up their trash mostly, and it's good stuff.
The goal is to make Zulu like Airsoft Disneyland.
Yeah.
Like-
Well, it sounds like you guys are on your way. I mean, the fact that you could camp there, I mean, there's a lot you could do with that, with like getting an RV and taking a bunch of buddies and going up there and then staying there and not having to get the hotel room. Or you could get a hotel room. You guys really have really combed through this and like made it that you can go up there and have a total experience.
Yeah, sure. And there's always, we're always, again, shower thoughts. You're always thinking about new stuff. And I was actually thinking about getting Connex containers and then finishing the inside.
Yeah.
And making like little bunkhouses in there, cheap, $30 a night, whatever.
Yeah.
Just for that reason.
We did that. You would totally be able to do that because we stopped because of COVID, but we used to go to this one. I forget the name of it. It was a ski resort during the summer, and it was total archery challenge, and it's like golf, but it's foam targets in the woods, and you go around with bows. And my brother's into it, and I just went to film one year, and then the following year he's like, use my old bow, and it was a really good time. And they got like, it wasn't a super brand new resort. Like, it's definitely like, it looked like The Shining. So like they had really cheap rooms, and then they also had like little bunk houses that, there's 4 or 5 of you going. So like that was always an option. I was like, man, that's cool. Like, we can go up there, and then like we got a kitchen and we can cook all weekend, and it's almost like you're going hunting, or like you're going away to do that stuff where you have the ability to like spend a whole weekend doing a bunch of cool shit you want to do. You're not just kind of like, you don't got to leave.
Yeah, you can kind of stay mentally immersed in it.
Yeah.
Like when you're having a good time, you can keep having the good time.
Yeah, because we would go back to the room, we'd make food and have a couple beers, and then we'd get up at the crack of the day, and then we'd go out into the woods, and and then we would do our thing all day, and then you get back, and then it was like, they had like a party or something you could go to, and then you went back to your room, and then on Sunday you got up and did it again. It was an awesome time. We drove all the way outside of Pittsburgh to do that. Nice. And then after COVID, obviously they had to stop their business because
socializing is bad.
Yeah. Meanwhile, I'm like, we're in the woods and no one's around each other. I'm totally fine with doing it. And it sucks because like you put other things in that time, and like we haven't gotten back to doing that. And that was like something we did yearly that like I made it a point to do with my brother, because he's got a family and I don't get to spend as much time as him, but I get to spend 3 days out in the woods.
Yeah.
Like, it's cool bonding like that. And then for that to be taken away, it's like now we're trying to get back to, when's that going to work for everybody again?
Yeah, it stinks, man, because I'm sure a lot of small businesses like that, went out of business.
Yeah.
Because of this whole thing. And
they made it through. Because
did.
I think they did. I think they had to stop, but then eventually they were like, hey, we're doing it, but it's only one day. And then like people still went and supported it. But I think by now it's probably back to full steam.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Good for them,
yeah. I want to thank you guys for coming on. This was really cool. We should definitely do more stuff. I want to come up. I'm going to come up. I want to check everything out. There's probably something we could do up there too, because I appreciate you guys coming down here. So I'm going to try and like get my video guy to come up with me, and really cool because his son's into it, so that'll be way easier to kind of get him to do stuff. But I don't know. I've been wanting to do mobile podcasting, so if the location, which I'm gathering from what you guys are explaining it, we could probably do something up there.
Yeah, the only thing is the acoustics in the building are not super great.
We'll figure it out.
Yeah, that's a daily challenge, is trying to make the videos, the audio not sound terrible. But besides that, we have a pretty good spot we could do a podcast up there.
Yeah, and I'm gonna talk to some people and try and, you know, if I can bring equipment up and make it easier, or even if we just end up shooting video, or you guys ever want to come back down here to podcast again, you're more than welcome. I think it's awesome what you guys have done. The fact that the three of you came together and you're building this giant project, and the story from acquiring the land and all the hard work, and then the pro shop, and then the tech stuff. It's really cool how it all just kind of laid together for you guys to build this immersive experience for people to kind of get away from the bullshit in life. And I think it's very important for people to do that. Since the pandemic, I don't think enough people do that anymore. So I'm excited to go up and try it. I'm going to give you guys a chance to plug social media, where they can find out the information to go and book you guys, or go up there, or if they need tech stuff or anything, you guys can go around and just individually push social media in any facet that you want.
Sure. So for Zulu, I think we're just at Zulu24 Airsoft on Instagram. Our website, we use Square, so it's zulu24.square.site. That's where our main website is. You can get all the information right there.
Cool. Do you have any personal ones or anything you want to push?
Yeah, so my main site that I'm trying to get everybody funneled on now is AntTechAirsoftStudios.com, and that's Antech with 2 T's, so like Anthony Tech, because I'm not original, and then the Instagram, and then the Instagram is Antech.airsoft. Those are like the main things I use. Oh, and YouTube, Antech Airsoft Studios. I'm on Facebook, but Facebook is dead.
Yeah.
It's not my fault.
I deleted it the other day. I'm just tired of it.
Yeah.
It's where people go to complain about life that haven't realized that, like I feel like I tell everybody, I'm like, everybody at once overshared on Facebook at some point because it was Facebook and no one knew what to do. And the only people who are left on Facebook who are still people who don't realize that oversharing on Facebook is not what you should be doing. And that's the community that's left on Facebook.
Yeah, we know some people.
Tell us about it, yeah.
Like, I hung on just to see like train wrecks and then group text my friends like, yo, you see what this girl's putting out there? But I, you know, and then it just became too much. And then I'll slowly just funnel it out till I'm not even using it anymore. But deleting the app was awesome because nothing trends well on it, nothing hits well on it. It's like I'll post, it's nothing, the numbers never hit, and I'm just like, this is literally, I'm just wasting that 5 minutes, add that up, I'm now into a half hour, hours, and it's just too much wasted time.
Do you feel free?
I did. I really did. Because I don't mind Instagram. I like Instagram from posting pictures to videos. I like Instagram as a platform to see, like, I feel like it's a new magazine, and you get to like, mine is Maxim, like that's how it is. It's just girls, things I like, and it's just I can choose to put it in and out. I don't have to read what they say. It is not for them to write anything. And then if I find cool hobbies, then I can share them, and it works awesome for networking. You can DM people for podcasting. Like, it's beneficial. Facebook, no, it's not. It's just old people anymore.
Yeah.
It's old. And I'm old. God knows what the younger kids think of it.
Well, I'm really glad that it's not just us, because I've seen a slow decline with the amount of interaction
it'll be gone.
we get on
I think that's
Facebook.
why they're pushing for Meta or whatever he plans on doing next. But
Well, like the Meta business features are super convenient, because
Yeah.
now you can post to Facebook and Instagram at the same time.
Yeah,
if you're
yeah,
just
yeah,
using the
yeah.
Meta business.
So like that's really the only reason they keep you on.
Yeah.
Like, that's the only reason I'm still connected to it. Is like, whatever, I'll dump it over there. But then it's like, you know.
But
then
yeah, we see a progressively better interaction number when it comes to players and the amount of people looking at our stuff on Instagram versus Facebook.
Yeah.
Even
And then
though
the
we try and
Facebook
push on
groups, most of the time, like, because people always try to get me into the food, like, oh, you should join this food blog. And I'm like, it's just people arguing. And like people who don't spend money in this town talking shit on businesses in this town. And I'm
Well,
like,
everybody
I'm
on
done.
Facebook thinks they know better
Yeah,
than anyone else who's posting on Facebook. It's all the
Yeah.
keyboard commandos. Just because they disagree with you, they think they're 100%
Yeah,
right.
I don't get that vibe from Instagram. And if it starts going that way, I'll block or delete the person and be like, cool. Like if somebody writes something dumb, I used to interact with people, but now like if something moves my mood, I'm like, oh, I don't need you to like, because I've already been like pissed off all day, and then it's like, all right, well, I don't need that. So if I read it now, I'm like, cool, you're gone, and there's no more interacting. It's just you're gone. I love Instagram for that. Facebook's too much.
Yeah, a long time ago. You know, I'm part of the generation that grew up without the internet, and then the internet came along, and then we watched everybody vomit all of their garbage.
Yeah.
So I learned a long time.
We're early on for that.
Yeah, I learned a long time ago that you have to have your own set of ground rules.
Yeah.
For the internet. Never get into a fight on the internet.
No.
You both look like idiots.
Yeah.
And so we apply that to the Zulu and all the affiliates. So I don't even. If I get a harsh comment, I'll try to find the truth in the comment, and if there is none, it's already out of my brain.
Yeah.
Because it's just like reviews, right? We can't learn and grow as a company if all our reviews are good. And I know that sounds crazy.
Yeah, if you have an honest review of somebody telling you, like, what do they call it? The feedback, I can't think, but like constructive criticism. Yeah. Like if you have constructive criticism, you could always grow from that. If you just have somebody shitting all over you because that's what they do.
But sometimes even when somebody's shitting all over you, there's a grain of something in there that made them think that way, and then you have to determine, hey, is that because of us, or were they just having a shitty day to begin with?
Yeah.
And then they came out and got shot in the nose and it hurt, and now their butt hurt and they're doing
yeah.
So I don't even read the good ones, to be honest with you, because they're all the same. But I read the bad ones, and I try to dissect.
Is this legit? Is it something that we should be concerned with?
Yeah,
Is there criticism in here? Yeah.
Yeah. But
because Dave doesn't progressively bring up any of the good reviews to us, but when we have a staff meeting, if there's a 1-star review and it's got some merit to it, he will blatantly put it out on the table and be like, why is this the way it is, and what can we do to fix it?
Yeah. It's good. I like that you guys all work together like that.
Back to what sets Zulu apart.
Yeah.
From the other.
Yeah.
It's a high standard.
We all kind of have that same mentality where like there's no time to get offended or butthurt over somebody saying something bad. If somebody's saying something bad, either they're full of shit or you're full of shit.
Yeah.
And if they're full of shit, it's not worth it. And if you're full of shit, you should probably get rid of it. Get rid of that shit. Like,
what's your you want to plug your YouTube channel and all that stuff?
Oh, okay, yeah. So for the shop, we have Zulu Outdoor on Instagram. Super simple. We're actually building a new website right now. It's available for you to see, but there's nothing on it right now. It's ZuluOutdoors.com.
Cool.
There's just a little S on the end because Zulu Outdoor, the domain was taken.
That's fun.
Yeah, not great. Yeah. And then for personal one, the videos that we were referencing, it's Spectre Airsoft on YouTube. You can see some cool gameplay montages from Milsim West games and even gameplay at Zulu. But that's about all of them. And then just for side note for everyone that's watching, if you need to submit clips or you want to submit any emails, at Zulu24clips@gmail.com.
And then you take the clips and
we use them in the monthly update.
Oh,
so
cool.
When players submit their video in the monthly update after Dave does his intro and we do our Zulu 24 monthly update intro, there's always 15 to 30 seconds of player submitted gameplay. And I give them a
good
little
way to interact and keep everybody involved.
Yeah, give them a little like lower 1/3 animation that shouts out their Instagram or their YouTube channel. That gameplay goes up there, and then we jump into the monthly update.
That's awesome. You guys are really ahead of the curve on some things, and I really like the way just everybody's helping out with your business, and everybody's got their strong points, and it's been a pleasure doing this.
Yeah, it's been a lot of fun.
yeah.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you for having us.
Thanks for having us, man.
Of course. If you're a first-time listener, first-time watcher, it's neveragainstudio.com. That's where all the podcasts are, the video and audio you can watch there. If you don't want to do it on the website, Spotify and YouTube are the big ones that I push. I think it's on iTunes and everything else, but those are where I listen to podcasts and watch podcasts. The YouTube we're pushing, so you can subscribe to that. We're going to have more things coming on there once we get the new studio open. The apparel, you can go through my Instagram at Linktree. And then I have my drop shipping set up with Kyle from Dynamite Screen Printing. So he's a sponsor now, so that's cool, and that all works. Thank you guys so much. I appreciate you guys driving here. I will return the favor by coming up, and I'll get you guys some content, and we can, I don't know, we'll hang again. I'll come up that way.
Sounds good, man.
Thank you, guys.
Right,
we
man.
did 2 hours.
Thank you. Never Again Radio. Get into it, brother.